Hey Rockstar, Steve aka Void here, and today we are going to talk about over practicing. Is it possible to over practice? Now, before we get into that, if you're looking to learn songs faster, if you're looking to work with an expert to help you learn songs on demand, definitely check out playfromday1.com. That's playfromday1, number 1.com. Add your name to the waiting list. Answer a few questions about your guitar playing, and I'll message you after I read your application and definitely help you get on the right track to playing songs. Now, over practicing is one of the things that I actually talk about in the program. I talk about this a lot with my students because it is possible to over practice. And what does that mean? So over practicing is when you're basically playing too much. When you're this guy, when you have your guitar with you all the time, and it's actually not as much. It's not as much that you could be playing guitar all day. It's all It's all about balance. That you don't want to play till your fingers bleed, or you don't want to hurt yourself. But I'm not really talking about the specifically like injuring yourself or anything like that. I'm talking about over practicing something where you all you have to do is play that thing and learn that thing, right? That's all you need to do with a song. You have to play the song, you have to understand it and know how to execute it effortlessly. Okay, that's the only goal here. And when it's all about when your brain is taking in the information and trying to absorb it, there's only so much that you need to do, but we feel like we need to just keep practicing over and over and over, and it's only going to be beneficial. So that's where sort of practice kind of came from, where it's like we think that as long as we practice, then we're going to be good. But that's actually not true. So over practicing is where you play something. And let's just say, for example, you're filling up a glass of water. Okay, so you're filling it up. The water is the information. The glass is, let's say, your mind. So you're filling up the glass with water. You're filling up your mind with information, and there's a certain point where that glass is full. Like you got it, you got the part down, and that's it. Like you don't need to do anything else. And yet, some guitar players, and myself included, I've done this before too, so I don't want to make it seem like I don't do this, but you keep going even after the glass is full. And what happens? Stuff starts spilling over. You start making a mess. And so with songs, the equivalent is if you're playing something and you're playing it past the point where you know it, and you have to get used to this. You have to get accustomed to when you know it. There's a certain feeling of ownership and confidence when you know the part, and you have to trust that you know the part. But because when you don't, when you over practice, what actually happens is you run the risk of screwing something up, changing the fingers, changing the technique, and actually unprogramming. So deprogramming what you did. You can program something completely different after that, and that'll be the new muscle memory. So we always aim for muscle memory, but what happens is you fill that glass up, and then that's it. That your muscle memory is good, but you keep going, and what happens is maybe your pinky flies out, or maybe your wrist is too bent, or maybe your shoulder's up, or maybe you're using downstrokes instead of an upstroke in that particular situation. And what happens is because your fingers are your loyal servants, they're your loyal students. They will do anything that you tell them to do. And what happens with over practicing is that you can ruin your progress because you learned it properly, and then 5 minutes later you made a few mistakes, and now that's the new version. Yeah, you remember that you played it perfectly, but now all your fingers remember are the new version that you showed it, which was you practiced too much and you actually kind of screwed up the programming, and now you have this new thing that's sloppy or with the wrong fingers, and that's the new way that you play it. And even if you're thinking about it, your fingers, the muscle memory, will remember the new way. So then you have to go back and you have to practice the old way, which was the proper way, and then you have to reprogram. It's just way too much work. So over practicing is where you play something and then you keep going even after it's done well. You keep going even after it's programmed and the muscle memory is programmed. You keep going, and then you ruin the work that you just did, and you have basically now a new muscle memory that is not as good as it was, let's say 5 or 10 minutes ago or 3 days ago. Whenever it is, there's a time where you just stop practicing, and you have to know that time. You have to know when it feels good, and I'll tell you how to do this in just a second. But does that sound familiar? Let me know in the comments below if that sounds familiar to you. If you've played something, you know it well, and then you just keep going and going and going and going, and then you actually aren't playing it as well anymore because you may not have known that it was over practice at the time, but that's what it was. Let me know if that sounds familiar, if that's ever happened to you. Hopefully it hasn't, but it probably has. I mean, I think that all guitar players, they just kind of at some point they just kind of play whatever without any structure. They just will keep practicing over and over and over and over and over, and just think that all the practice that they're doing is beneficial when actually it's not. There's a certain kind of practice where it's very strategic, and I actually outline that in my book, Practice Less, Play More, if you want to check that out. What I'm going to mention is in chapter 7 of Practice Less, Play More, there's something that I came up with called the fast practice formula. And this is only a part of the practice strategy that I use, but it's a very important one because if you have rules, then you'll know how to prevent over practicing and make sure that your muscle memory is always locked in. So let's say, for example, on this week's episode of Pajama Jam, I played Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic. I attempted to learn that in 30 minutes or less, up to speed, live on camera. And there was a part in there that went... yeah, so that was the last lick. So anyway, so this part. So that part there is that the way that I program that, and the reason why I could learn songs in such a short amount of time, let's say up to speed in 30 minutes or less, is because I'm only practicing as much as I need to. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, basically the fast practice formula dictates that as long as you can play something 3 times without making a mistake, then you have it. You have that in your muscles. Okay, and so you play whatever it is, whatever part you're practicing. Let's say it was this. Let's say it was that. I want to make sure when I'm learning it that, maybe I'm playing it a little bit slower, but I want to make sure that when I'm learning it, I'm playing that 3 times without making a mistake before moving on. Okay? 3 times without making a mistake before moving on. So what does that mean, moving on? Well, I'm going to play the part 3 times without making a mistake. So that'll be like this. I go, so that's 1. That's 2, and that's 3. After I could do that 3 times in a row, see, 1 time if I do it, that might just be luck. 2 times, it might still be lucky. 3 times in a row, without making a mistake, that pretty much means I've got it, okay? So after I do that, what I want to do, I want to move on. Move on, what does that mean? Well, I'm either going to move on, I'm going to increase the speed, I'm going to increase the amount, or I'm going to increase the complexity. See, it's one or the other. So it's like, I'm going to play a little bit faster the next time after I could do it 3 times without making a mistake. I'm going to increase the amount that I could play, so maybe I can do the same speed, but I do 2 times. I increase the amount that I play, and I'm going to now do that chunk 3 times without making a mistake before moving on. Okay? Or if, let's just say, there was something in this part that to increase the complexity, like maybe, for example, I do all downstrokes at first. So if I go, then what I could do is I can then make the picking a little more complex. Instead of doing all downstrokes, I go up, down, up, down, up, down, up. I do alternate picking. So each step of the way, you do it 3 times without making a mistake before moving on to whatever the next step is, okay? Whatever the next thing is to expand it. And to prevent over-practicing, you're basically only doing 3 times without making a mistake before moving on. Now, if you make 2 mistakes in a row, then you got to go back. You either have to decrease the speed, decrease the amount, or decrease the complexity. But we want to make sure we have rules in place so that we can prevent over-practicing. And if you need more information on this, please let me know in the comments below. If you know that you're not making progress in your playing, please let me know in the comments below, and I could direct you. I could answer any questions or anything like that, because over practicing is going to waste your time. You practice something, maybe you got it for whatever, like maybe you played, and whether you use the fast practice formula or not, maybe you can play that part perfectly, but then you keep going too far, and then you actually undo all the work that you just did, and now you have this new part because your muscles just pay attention, your fingers pay attention to whatever you're telling them to do, which means that you run the risk of doing something the wrong way after you did it the right way, and now the wrong way is what sticks. Okay, so that is over practicing. Please let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, and if you enjoyed this technique and you want to learn songs faster, you want to go further, take a deeper dive, definitely check out playfromday1.com, add your name to the waiting list, and answer a few questions about your playing. This is not a guitar course. This is working with me personally to help you learn songs faster. And again, it's not a guitar course. You're not just going to hit play on a video and you're just going to watch stuff. This is a different thing. And if you want more information, please let me know. I'm definitely happy to explore that with you, because my goal is to have you playing songs faster, learning songs on demand, learning how to catch fish on your own, and becoming an independent learner. Okay, it's so important in this day and age to be able to know how to learn songs quickly, especially with all the information and overwhelm that's out there. All right, so that is all I've got for you today with overpracticing. Make sure to use the fast practice formula. Pick up my book, Practice Less, Play More, a bestseller on Amazon. You can check it out. People are really loving this book because it's showing you only the things that you need to learn songs faster and to prevent overpracticing. So don't ruin your progress. Make sure not to overpractice. I'll see you in the next video. That'll be in a couple of days, and we'll talk soon. Take care.